A new House committee report confirms many of the suspicions surrounding COVID and exposes critical details previously hidden from the public. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. And honestly, this is an episode we probably should have on our own website, ChinaUncensored.tv, because YouTube is not going to like it. After sifting through more than 1 million pages of documents and dozens of hearings and interviews, the Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic published its final 557-page report on COVID. I assume you'll want me to give you the TLDR. The report did contain some doozies, which I'll get into in a moment, but it also confirmed what many already knew. Lockdowns were devastating for students. It also didn't work out so well at nursing homes, particularly in a certain ex-governor's neighborhood. Thanks, Andrew Cuomo. At least all this was done with full transparency, nothing to hide or alter. And if something like this did happen, surely the person who did it would have faced consequences by now. The report also confirmed Facebook faced pressure to censor content. But thank goodness the experts are never wrong. That's why we still believe the sun revolves around the earth. Experts make a mistake? No way. I mean, if they did, it's surely someone else's fault, like the CDC. Why worry about COVID when you're more likely to be thrown under a bus? Now, here's a real shocker. Can you believe Fauci might not have been upfront about certain types of research? It's so strange, too, because after all, they were hard at work quickly adapting and implementing policies like mask mandates to do what was ultimately best for us. They definitely knew what was best for us. And the kids are doing great with no setbacks whatsoever. Thank goodness we had politicians with strong moral compasses to guide us during that challenging time. As we all know, donors, friends, need to eat too. Gosh, these revelations keep coming in. Can you believe COVID relief funds may have been abused? I'm simply shocked. Shocked, I say. I'm really glad the funds went to small businesses like the LA Lakers. Now, if you guessed, I was being a little sarcastic as I pointed out how inconsistent, hypocritical, and ineffective government officials and experts were in response to COVID. But you'd be right, unlike many of the government officials and experts. See, the Select Subcommittee confirmed the suspicions on those topics and much, much more, including how the World Health Organization failed to uphold its own mission and caved to Chinese Communist Party pressure, how the U.S. failed at preparing for the pandemic and securing its stockpiles, how certain policies like the 6 feet social distancing rule were unscientific, and how lockdowns and vaccine mandates caused more harm than good. In addition to all that, the subcommittee also determined that the possibility of a COVID lab leak is not just a conspiracy theory anymore, it's now a very likely theory. But since the Select Subcommittee commenced its work in February 2023, more and more senior intelligence officials, politicians, science editors, and scientists increasingly have endorsed the hypothesis that COVID-19 emerged as the result of a laboratory or research-related accident. Well, I'll just sit back and accept all the apologies from everyone who thought I was a fringe lunatic. I'm sure the mainstream media is finally admitting, just kidding. Many, like CNN, continue to push the natural origin argument, though I'm not sure people trust the media anymore these days. But there's something else that went previously unreported that the Select Subcommittee also found. It all has to do with everybody's favorite nonprofit scientific research organization, EcoHealth Alliance, led by Dr. Peter Daszak, one of the earliest and loudest experts claiming COVID definitely had a natural origin. First, let's give a little recap on EcoHealth Alliance to reignite our love for such an outstanding organization. While receiving U.S. taxpayer money, EcoHealth Alliance conducted research, including experiments that a heck of a lot of experts classify as gain of function at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, the place where COVID likely started. The goal was to understand coronaviruses and prevent the next pandemic, and they were successful. Well, mostly at the former, because we all got a deep, intimate understanding of coronaviruses. And yes, they're testing fish for COVID here, because maybe that's where it started, definitely not a lab. EcoHealth Alliance did, how do I say this delicately? A lot of really sloppy reporting on its own research. It's almost as if they were hiding something. EcoHealth was also subject to numerous federal investigations regarding both its potential role in the pandemic and for potentially violating federal grant policies. Of course, EcoHealth wasn't alone. It seems the NIH did its own kind of hiding by going above and beyond to try and cover up gain-of-function research by deleting federal COVID records, using personal emails to avoid the Freedom of Information Act, and intentionally misspelling words to evade keyword searches. Like innocent people do. So it's easy to see why people just love Fauci and have the utmost trust in the NIH. Now, while all that's bad, it isn't new. Here's what wasn't reported before. The subcommittee discovered that the Justice Department impaneled a grand jury to investigate the origins of COVID. Naturally, this was done in secret. Were they planning to throw a party when they figured it out? Like a gender reveal party, only instead of a gender, it was the cause? Surprise, it was a lab. That's not much of a surprise. Here's where it gets interesting. When asked about this by the Select Subcommittee, EcoHealth's counsel denied that the Justice Department was investigating EcoHealth or DASIC. But the subcommittee concluded that the specific details of the investigations are unknown, but based on documents, it appears the DOJ's investigation involves EcoHealth's role in the COVID-19 pandemic. Internal emails and records from EcoHealth Alliance included in the report reveal that the grand jury issued subpoenas for genetic sequences of EcoHealth's research on viruses in Wuhan, as well as for correspondence between the organization's president, Dr. Peter Daszak, and Dr. Shi Li. That's totally not making them look suspicious. In one intercepted email, an attorney at the firm Tarter, Krinsky & Drogan told Daszak to skip any reference to the federal probe when asking for more time to comply with the request from the House Energy and Commerce Committee, which was running its own COVID investigation at the time. I mean, that's just a sign of real integrity right there. And here's some subpoenaed emails that federal prosecutors came across between EcoHealth and Shi Li, the Chinese Wuhan coronavirus expert who garnered a lot of attention for her research. They got emails from both her Wuhan official and personal email addresses. By the looks of it, she is a true friend to Daszak. Shame on those stupid politicians demanding transparency. Everyone knows the best way to conduct science is with secrets and lies, just like Edison. We still don't know what came out of the DOJ investigation, though. The subcommittee said that as of December 4th, 2024, the outcome was not public. So there you have it. The committee confirmed a lot of what we already knew, removed the lab leak theory from the conspiracy checkbox, and told us about a secret DOJ investigation into the origins of COVID. And all of this just reinforces why people distrust public health institutions like the NIH. They're angry with how the health experts not only failed to counter the COVID pandemic, but also how they censored information and did shady things that made it seem like they were hiding something, which in turn only breeds more distrust. It's no wonder many cheered when President-elect Trump said he'd nominate Jay Bhattacharya for the director of the NIH. Bhattacharya is a Stanford-educated physician and economist who criticized COVID lockdowns and was a target of censorship from the NIH leadership. Seems kind of poetic if he officially becomes the head of the organization that was at his throat. I'd like to think this is going to be the last time we'll talk about COVID, but that's probably unlikely. Democrats are already pushing back against many of the subcommittee's findings, but who knows? Maybe under Bhattacharya and the likes of hunky Health and Human Services Secretary nominee RFK Jr., we may see even more revelations in the future. I guess it's better seeing senior citizens in the gym than in the cemetery. Thanks, Andrew Cuomo. And before YouTube kicks you to a random video, have you ever wondered why bad things like COVID happen to good people? Check out the latest episode of my Gaming Philosophy channel for more. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. This is America Uncovered.